Welcome to Holistic Health Heroes, here to help you become your own health advocate and introduce you to some heroes in the holistic health arena. Let's get started. All right. Well, I'm sitting here with Kimberly Hand, who is a wellness lifestyle expert and the host of the Cinnamon Effect podcast, which I had the pleasure of being on recently. So if you haven't heard that, go check that out. And in that episode, I would say it's safe to say, Kimberly, that we unveiled how we are in fact soul sisters.
Yes. Oh my God. From so many years ago.
Right. So Kimberly is really passionate about helping you, the listeners out there, live a sweeter, healthier, and more fulfilling life. And I think, we had our announcement on your podcast. I think we'll have another one this time. What do you think?
I love it. I'm excited.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming down here and being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And totally agree. We are soul sisters. And if you guys didn't know, you were my teacher.
So funny.
But let's just be honest. You're only 3 years older than me.
It gives me chills. It just gives me chills, And
I was telling my son this morning, because I said, I'm going to do this podcast. And guess what? Guess who this person is? And I said, she was my teacher. And his first question was, well, how old is she? And I said, she's actually not that much older, because you were like a new teacher at the time.
Yes, I was a teaching assistant. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he thought it was funny. I thought it was even funnier that we sat down together and did not make this connection until like mid-podcast.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, I remember I listened to it back, of course, a couple times actually. And I was noticing myself being so dumbfounded by it. I was just like, No. Totally dismissed it immediately, but then was like it just started to sink in. And I was like, what? Mind blown,
I know.
It was cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's my new favorite word, kismet. I've already used it 3 times today, but that is the little synchronicities in life. They give us so much energy, I think.
I love that. The kismet.
Yeah. The kismet.
I love that. I love that word. I don't use it often, but I'm going to now.
Yeah. It's great. So I know we have a lot in common. We've discussed that on your podcast. And as we've gotten to know each other recently, I've started to see other things we in common. You worked in advertising. I worked in marketing. Yeah. We love holistic health, obviously. We did dance to a certain degree. You think you were way ahead of me with the dance thing, but I did my part in some dance.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Ballroom dance for 4 years about. Yeah.
Wow.
As an
4
adult.
years, that's a long time.
Yeah. And you were a cheerleader.
Yes.
Tell us
was a cheerleader for the Miami Dolphins.
That's pretty freaking cool.
2008-2009 season, which was, they made the playoffs. It was actually a really great season to be a part of the team.
Yeah.
And I was 28 years old at the time, a little on the older end. I think in those days.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's hard to believe it's been as long as it has, but in those days, you didn't really hear of anyone over 25 who was a cheerleader.
Right.
But yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah. And I love what dance does for us health-wise. It's good for your body. It's good for your brain. Mm-hmm. What was your experience like with dance?
So my whole life, I was a dancer. I started at age 5. And that was just a little hobby. And actually, I tried to quit dance over the years. I would be like, oh, I'm burned out, or whatever. I went to an art school. And so I was dancing during the day at school. And then I was dancing at night after school. And it was a lot. And so I did try to say, well, I don't want to do this anymore. So I actually left the art school and I went back to my home high school and ended up dancing there. And what I find interesting, and I feel like it's that way in life with other things, is that dancing so much at school and after school was too much for me. But being able to go to school, not at an art school, and to dance a little bit how I wanted to dance, maybe once a week or whatnot, kind of take the schedule down, I really found more joy in it. And then I taught dance for a little while, and then I didn't dance for 8 years, actually. And that's when I started training. I didn't know I was training. I guess we're going to get into the whole story of this, because it was kind of interesting, because I was 27 at the time, and I wanted to take dance classes again. And I didn't really know where or how. And most classes were not geared towards adult women.
It was so true.
You were dancing with teenagers, which I did do for a little while. I would be in class with 15-year-olds and I'm 27, and I was just hey, trying to get back into it.
Right.
And I was researching adult dance classes, and I found a Miami Dolphins cheerleader prep class. And so this class was actually prepping to audition.
Wow.
It was, kind of prepping these girls to get ready for the audition. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go down there. I have no desire to audition, but I'm going to take the class. And about, midway through the class, the director at the time kind of pulled me to the side and she said, I hope you're planning on trying out. And I said, not really. Like, I was like, no, I don't think so. And she was like, well, I really think you should. And I felt like, really? Like, I don't think she knew I was 27 at the time. And I was kind of thinking like, maybe I'm too old for this experience, which I think is such a terrible thing to tell yourself. Because I truly believe like I'm 45 and I feel like don't put an age limit on anything in life.
Yeah, I have a problem with that too. I like this lesson.
Yeah. So it was a good lesson for me. And to think now 27, gosh, that's so young, So I ended up auditioning. I got a flat tire on the way there. It was like everything in the universe was maybe trying to stop me from doing it. And I said, I'm just going to do this. So I went, I tried out, I made it to the finals. And from the finals, it was hundreds of girls and they only chose, I think it was like 9 girls or something that year. It was not, and I say girls, but women. And I was not one of those 9. And I was really bummed. But it was funny because I had no expectation of trying out. Right. And then I did. And I was like so bummed. And I realized, oh my gosh, I really want to do this.
Right.
Like now I know I really want to do this. So the following year, I did not go to the prep class. I just knew from those classes I had taken, I started dancing at like a studio that was kind of some younger people, but there were some adults there. And that's where I met one of my best friends, Maria Conrad, and she is now a choreographer for the Nashville Ballet. She's incredible. But I started taking her class on Friday mornings. I would skip work and I would go to her class.
Amazing.
And I was in sales and I would tell my boss that I was on a sales call. Sorry if you're listening, but that's what I did. And so I would go take class and I would not shower. I would just put my dress on and like head to work. And I did that I did it for like 9 months.
Wow.
And came to the audition, and to make a long story short, I ended up trying out and making it that year. So I was 28 years old. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life as far as really working towards a goal, having to be super disciplined. I was getting up, I was getting up before work, going to the gym at 6 a.m., really making it happen, watching my nutrition, doing everything. And then that year was grueling because I lived about an hour and a half away, one way from practice, and even farther from the stadium for games. And so it was 3 nights a week of training, and then you had the games on the weekends, and it was a lot of work, but one of the most special, interesting, fun, one of those experiences that like makes you feel alive.
Absolutely. I think there's so much in there as far as just really understanding or recognizing what you really want in life, working, like you said, working towards a goal, all the discipline that it took, the sacrifice. Yeah. And then just the honing in on your health too. Like you said, had to focus on your nutrition. That's a lot of planning and preparation. I'm sure there was some meal prep involved.
Yes, meal prep. Well, and at the time, it's funny looking back, I think, I would do it so much better now because I know so much more.
Of course.
But it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. Step by step. And you did what you could when you were there. That's so great. And then when you were, the practice of dance itself, like, because I know when I was doing the dancing, I recognize that not only is this good exercise because you're moving your body, but it was such good brain work. Did you have that as well, that experience? Did you in the moment know it or just upon reflection?
Yes. So it's funny that you mentioned that because choreography you are learning things at such a fast pace. And I do think dancers are like very intelligent and quick-witted and everything, because you are having to like think on your feet all the time. As I got older, so I cheered when I was 28. I ended up auditioning after that. I ended up auditioning for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. I think I was 33 when I did that.
Wow.
The brain started to slow. Well, it wasn't like slow, but it was just harder to pick up that choreography. And I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, I can tell the difference here, that this is, this is a different thing. And now I think I've taken dance classes maybe into my later 30s. I ended up continuing to dance. I danced for the friend I mentioned, Maria Conrad. She had a company, and I danced with her up until almost I got pregnant with my son at 36. So
that's amazing.
I ended up dancing for quite a while, and like doing it in adulthood, which was kind of rare.
Right.
And I feel proud of that.
Very much so, as you should. Yeah, I love it. I'm like living vicariously through that experience. So you mentioned, up until your pregnancy. And so I know that you have a story in there. And my question was, what led you to holistic health? I think this is the story that did.
Yes.
So can you enlighten us? I've heard you mention it on your podcast, but I don't know the details of it. So what was that journey that led you to holistic health?
So the journey was really I guess maybe it started during pregnancy, because I was on bed rest and I could not do any physical activity. Wow. So here's coming from someone that was very active to not active at all, and laid up in bed for 3 months towards the end of the pregnancy. And just it took me back to like square one. Like whatever I thought I knew about health or exercise was wiped clean at that point. And so it was really, I did have a lot of complications. And so it was really the aftermath of having a baby and having some complications during the pregnancy, having also a very difficult delivery. So I was diagnosed with PTSD after my delivery with my son. But I did not discover that until probably 2.5 years later. Really? That I was struggling with PTSD. I knew I had a very complicated situation, but I did not realize that I was struggling at the degree that I was. Because I thought you only got PTSD if you were like a war veteran. Right. I really did. I thought you've been to war, that you've seen these things, and yet I had it after a traumatic birth experience. So that was a light bulb in a lot of senses. I had to nourish my body in a different way. I had been vegan, and I had lost a lot of blood during the pregnancy, and during the delivery as well. So they were like, you need to eat steak. Like day one in the hospital, you need to eat steak. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been vegan, and I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this, but I did, because it was something in my body that I knew that I needed it. And I've adapted my diet in that way. That was a big thing. I kind of changed. I still love plant-based food. I love a plant-based diet, but I do think that now for my body, I need some red meat. I need some different types of protein, so. Yeah.
Okay, wow. So was the PTSD, was it from like the whole experience of having to shift your life from so active to inactive, to then having a difficult birth situation, to then maybe postpartum? Again, I'm filling in blanks. I don't know the story. Yeah. Like, was it just the birth experience that gave you the PTSD?
I think it was really the birth experience.
Okay.
Yes, which was, I feel like I haven't really talked about the actual details of that, and I don't think I'm prepared to do those details, but it was the aftermath of that experience. Yeah. And I was having nightmares, and I was really struggling. Wow. And I think losing a lot of blood too, it's like, gosh, it felt like a rebirth in a sense. Like I was taken down to so kind of frail, afterward, and having a lot of issues I have to emerge, I guess. And it's not, when people say bounce back, I talked about this on another podcast, you do not bounce back. And I think most women, there are that rare unicorn out there that I think is like, oh, like pregnancy is no big deal. And maybe they have a lot of kids because it is no big deal for them. But I think for most women, we don't bounce back. We emerge as someone new. And that really was like a rebirth of me,
Yeah.
And I really felt that way. So a lot of things I had to do differently. And that was, part of that was finding joy and finding purpose. And now this didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen right after my son was born. This took years and years later of finding joy in things outside of being a mom, outside of being a wife, and kind of, who is Kimberly and what does Kimberly want to do? And, so that to me, although there were a lot of things I had to do for my health. I mean, I realized I had kind of all of these issues. And so it was supplementation, and it was changing my diet and getting lots of protein and doing all these things, and hydration and, good sleep hygiene, which you can't get as a new mom.
Right,
It's like that comes way later.
Right.
But it was also these things, finding the things that really lit me up in life and fed my soul and nourishing that part of my life too. Also getting help with the PTSD that I didn't even know I had.
Right. Yeah. Because when you're in it, you don't know. Like you said, you didn't find this out until a few years later.
Yes.
So you're in it, you're surviving, you're trying to just get through the day. A couple of years into it, you seek out to say, what is this? What's going on?
So the boiling point of actually finding out about the PTSD was I got pregnant with a second pregnancy. My son was 2.5, and I ended up, it sent me into a tailspin of like, I think I'm going to die.
Oh, wow.
Like this, I think I'm going to I'm pregnant again, and I think I'm going to die because I had a close call in my delivery. And so I thought this was not good news for me. So I ended up going to a therapist at that time, and she was like, whoa, you have most likely been suffering from PTSD for the last 2.5 years. And that's why you're this hyper vigilant, thinking that you're going to die. It was just like, you couldn't tell me anything else. It was my brain trying to protect myself. Like, this is danger. This is not good. And unfortunately, I ended up having a miscarriage. And really that whole experience was learning about the PTSD, getting help for that. So going through EMDR therapy, which I've actually done twice now. And the first time I do think helped, but I think the PTSD was pretty severe. So I had to go through another round of it. And it's weird because someone described EMDR to me as, you'll do it and you won't really know what's happening, and you won't really know that you're okay until you're okay.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's really like an interesting way to describe that.
Yeah.
And when I did it, all of a sudden it was like we did, I forget how many sessions, but say it was 8 weeks or 10 weeks or whatnot. And all of a sudden I was like, I think I'm okay.
Interesting.
I think I feel better.
For those who aren't familiar, could you describe what EMDR is a little bit?
EMDR is... Gosh, now I can't even think of like what it stands for.
Acronym?
Isn't that weird?
I can't either. Yeah, it's about this eye movement, right?
Yes, eye movement.
EMDR. We'll have to Google that.
Yeah. And I actually had someone on my podcast talking about it.
I did it too. I did a little bit of it too. So I'm familiar. Okay. I've heard of it. I'd heard of it before, and someone said, maybe you want to try it. So I did. And yeah, I think that's true. It's not like you get done with the sessions and you're like, okay. I mean, you might have, it just dawns on you like gradually, kind of like, I think that did really help me.
I think it was in very layman's terms, and to be as simple as possible, is that it's replacing this traumatic event. You're replacing it with imagery and thoughts of a positive thoughts to replace that. And you're using, like I use the paddles, the different paddles. So they're activating different sides of your brain as you're recounting.
And paddles are used with your hands?
Yes.
I'm guessing, because I use the eye movement.
Okay, so I did eye movement the first time.
Okay.
Yeah. I did the eye movement, and then I did paddles the second time.
Interesting.
And yeah.
Do you think the paddles were more impactful?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Could it be that it was more impactful, or could it be that it was kind of the second time I was revisiting this,
Yeah, maybe combination of both.
It could be a combination. Maybe, and I think I was doing more as far as nutrition and other things when I did the MDR the second time.
Yeah.
I felt like maybe further along in the healing process.
Yeah.
Although now I don't think that it's, you get further along. I think you kind of ebb and flow, and it's up and down, and it's a windy road. It's not like a linear path.
100%.
Yeah.
So cyclical and yeah. I had a coach once that had this great phrase that I really identified with. And I was like, why am I having this struggle again? This same struggle came up before. And she was like, new level, old devil.
Oh,
have you ever heard that before?
No, I like that though. And it's so true.
Yeah. I was like, bingo. Yep. Yeah. That's what it is.
New level, old devil. For sure. For sure.
So interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this word trauma, there's a lot to say about it. There's like the big T, they say, with the war veterans, and the little T, not to diminish anyone's little trauma T. It's just a way to differentiate between war and other types of traumas. So with the experience of PTSD, the diagnosis, unraveling that, like, I can't imagine someone saying to me, you have PTSD. And what was that like?
It's funny. I was like dumbfounded. I was like, what? I knew I was having, I was struggling, but I didn't realize it was that. You could have told me it was anything else. But I also felt that same way after I had my first round of like blood work with a functional medicine doctor. Here, I thought, again, I've been a dancer. I've been, in fitness, and I have been a clean eater, and I've been doing all these things right, is what I thought. But oh gosh, there was still so much that I was dealing with, and I think some of that resurged from like childhood. There's all kinds of places that all your experiences and your stories kind of live, and then they get unearthed.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
And I did feel that way. It was like for the first time, in my like at 40, I was really confronting a lot of things. And I think it was unearthed from this pregnancy and birth experience. And, to say that my son is the love of my life, I have to say that. And I am extremely grateful that, our story ended with a healthy baby that came earthside, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't get that. But there is a lot of truth and story and things that need to be talked about for women that have gone through very traumatic experiences,
right? Yeah. Your rebirth, like you said, the rebirth of you in the midst of this whole thing. Gosh, I just trying to put myself in your shoes with like the loss of blood and the frailty and the struggle then. And then, after you get through this PTSD time, you learn this is when you start to really awaken to the holistic principles and learning new things and doing things differently and changing. And one of those, I think, lessons, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right in saying it was hydration.
Yes.
And that's become really important for you.
Yes.
What was the lesson that you sort of learned about hydration, or maybe it's multiple lessons? What are the things that become so important around hydration for you?
Well, what's interesting is it's funny because I think you pulled that out of our conversation. We were talking about hydration, right?
Yeah.
On my podcast. And it is so important. I gauge everything by like how hydrated I am. And I was trying to think about, when did that really start? Because when I grew up in the age where you didn't leave the house with a water bottle. I remember going to school, I think, all day and like maybe taking a couple sips out of the water fountain or something like that. Not today, of course. I mean, I can't leave the house. I almost left the house without my water bottle today. And I was like, no, I'm going to be gone for like 3 hours. Like, I've got to have water. Like, I couldn't just go to the gas station or something. But when I was breastfeeding, you have to be hydrated because you are feeding a being here, you know? And
it's not like infants drink water.
No,
right?
Like they're drinking it from you. Right. So you better step up your game. And I had a doula, and she really did make sure, it was funny. I had the cup that you get at the hospital, and new moms know this. They give you this big giant plastic cup, with the big straw. And I kept that cup by the side of my bed until I realized that it was a trigger for me, having been in the hospital and having a traumatic situation. And here I had this hospital cup. I had to get rid of the hospital cup.
Wow.
But it did force you to stay hydrated because it was really large, and maybe equivalent to today's like Stanley, that people carry. But
that's what I'm picturing.
It was pretty giant cup. But I would say hydration during the postpartum phase and nursing and breastfeeding and being that person, and the more hydrated you are, the better like your milk supply will be. And so I think that's really when it started.
The seed was planted then. This is really critical to everything.
Yes. And then you realize that hydration is linked to your skin health. And I lived out in Park City, Utah for a little while. It's so dry. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I can see like the fine lines developing here, and I've got to do something. So yeah, hydration is very important to me.
Very important,
And I think that comes from the food too. I love fruit. I think you have to hydrate through what you're eating as well, fruits and vegetables. And
they give you a lot of water. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't drink caffeine, or I don't drink coffee or alcohol either anymore. So that's...
Guess what, Kimberly?
What?
I'm back on the coffee.
You're no way.
Yes, I'm back on, girl. I couldn't do it. I'll try again someday, but now I need coffee. Big reveal there.
Big reveal.
Oh man. But I mean, there's so much both, this side and that side about the coffee story, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of benefits out there. If you're looking for the benefits, you can surely find them. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, there are the drawbacks, especially not so good for you if you have adrenal fatigue and things like that. So, work in progress.
Work in progress. And, I don't judge. I think a lot of people do find it brings them a lot of joy. Yeah. And I think that's important too.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. So, right. But it just was never right for me. I have to preface it with, I stopped drinking any kind of caffeine when I was like 20 years old.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it was when that happened to me where I became a coffee addict. But I'll say it.
Yeah. My husband is too. I live with one. I'm like, okay.
You can just enjoy the aroma, right?
Yes.
The smell.
Yes. So, and I do like the smell. Yeah. Oddly enough, I don't drink it, and I love it. And even when my friends we would go out and they would have an espresso martini.
Yeah.
I always say that wrong because I don't drink it. It would smell so good to me.
Yes.
Just
it
not
does
my
have
thing.
An amazing smell.
Yeah.
So we're talking about your journey here, and now we're up to the 40s, right? I think you mentioned the 40s. We're in the 40s.
In the 40s.
And you, with the cinnamon effect, you created a manifesto, and you've got some pillars there. Now, maybe you can describe those pillars and how you implement them to your life for health, for optimal well-being. But I'm also curious, did this come to you in your 40s? Was this kind of like a 40s epiphany or not so much?
Kind of, yes.
Okay.
So I love that you asked that. Thank you so much. Because it really, the cinnamon effect. Okay, so let's back it up just a little bit. Because when I was 39, I had a miscarriage. I decided I was not going to try for another child. I just felt like after my experiences, it was the end of the road for me, and it was okay. And, but I did feel like in the healing process, okay, Kimberly, you've got to figure out something that lights you up and gives you joy and makes you happy, makes you feel alive, right? And so I did some soul searching, and that's when I ended up getting trained in feng shui, and it was right during COVID, actually. So that had started, and it felt really poignant that it happened at that time because we were spending so much time in our homes.
True.
And I was really feeling, oh, okay, this is what good energy and bad energy feels like. And if I move this here, and if I change this around, and if I declutter my space, this feels really, really good, right? So I was playing around with that in my own life, and I was helping other people, and, we were all kind of trapped, and in Utah it was snowing, and it was like, okay, what else are we going to do? So I ended up, starting this small business of feng shui and organizing and all these things. Well, in turn, I think what is so impactful about that is that you are decluttering your physical space, and then you start decluttering your mental space, and really you start to strip away everything. It becomes addictive almost, where you're like, oh, I don't need that, or that bucket over there is taking up valuable space, and I need to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. And you just start doing that with everything, or at least I did.
Yeah.
I think it just like made me, to see things in a new way. And so, flash forward a little bit more time, and the podcast idea came up, and it felt like 100% yes for me. I felt very clear of like, this is something I want to do.
Yeah.
So, in coming up with a name for the podcast, the cinnamon effect, I knew I wanted it to be health and wellness related. I knew all these little details about the podcast, but I wasn't certain how to pull it all together. And the name, the cinnamon effect, came to me. I thought, this is clever and interesting, and
it matches your hair.
It matches my hair color. I won't lie. That was definitely one of the main influences.
I like that. Great.
And when people really didn't understand it, I would try to explain it to them, and I'd be like, well, yeah, like my hair is like cinnamon, right?
Yeah.
Cinnamon's, related to health, the whole thing. As it evolved, and as you know, when you are creating a podcast and you're defining your brand and who you are and all these things, this cinnamon effect manifesto came to mind. And because I thought, so many people are asking me, well, what is the cinnamon effect? Mm-hmm. And these things just came together of like, well, this is what I did to pull myself out of a dark hole. Mm-hmm. And these are the things that I think make me healthier. Yes, there's all the supplements, you can do all the things right. Mm-hmm. But there's this whole other layer of things that you add into your life, or that I added into my life. This is what I did that have made me a healthier, more fulfilled person. Yes. And that's really what the cinnamon effect came to be. And it just so happens that it's 5 C's.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
So it's clarity. Mm-hmm. I'll run through them all, and then I'll explain them. But it's finding clarity. It's connection. It's confidence, creativity, and calm. And how do you find all of those things, create all those things in your life and implement them? And so for clarity, I started with the decluttering. Again, you're decluttering your physical space, you're decluttering your mental space, right? And from there, other things can grow. So started with the clarity. I really did strip down everything. I mean, it was relationships. It was toxic people that I had to say goodbye to. It was moving from one place to another. Mm-hmm. It was all these aspects that happened in that clarity phase. And then the connection with myself. I had to figure out, what does Kimberly like to do? What lights me up? And that kind of started with a solo trip to Montana, where I went to the yoga retreat and had quiet time. And it brought the clarity, but it was this connection with myself, and then connection with people I didn't even know. I went there, I arrived by myself, And I think if we can find connection within ourselves, but we can also connect with people around us, not virtually, in person, actually sitting down, having a conversation, joining a group, being in a dance class, doing all of these beautiful things. If you can find that connection, it's going to bring so much to your life.
Yeah.
Confidence was another one. I like to do things that scare me. And in turn, the podcast being one of them, I just went python hunting.
Yes.
That scared me.
I couldn't believe it.
But, doing all of these things to really build my confidence. If I can grab a snake by the back of the head, a 12-foot python, what else can I do?
That's right.
Yeah.
So
building that confidence. Creativity. I think we are lucky we get to be creative in our podcast. That's a ton of fun. Entrepreneurship, I also dabble with, different things with that. Creativity, making bracelets or color, not coloring like a kid, I guess, but like, painting or art or whatever.
That's self-expression.
Whatever makes you feel creative. And then calm. how can I bring more calm into my life? What are the ways I can create peace in my atmosphere, in my head?
By the way, the clearing and the clutter, that's going to create some calm too.
Absolutely.
Now, I have to do a sidebar here because I want to know the story of this python hunting thing. I thought it was AI. I saw the video, girl. I was like, what is she doing?
You did ask me if it was AI, which I thought was hilarious because I was like, oh my God, that would be a good AI video.
God, put your face on some, python wrangler. But no, how did you get introduced to, what is this, the Florida cowboy? What's his name?
Python cowboy.
Python cowboy. How did you meet this guy and how did this come about?
So it's kind of funny because years ago when they were talking about pythons being a problem in the Everglades, which they're a huge problem, I was like, something in me wanted to, well, they didn't, I don't think in the very beginning they opened it up to the public. I think it was something that people were catching pythons, but they were hired by the state. It was not something that you could just go do.
Gotcha.
Right? I mean, you could go rogue and do it, I guess, but... So years ago, I saw this and I thought, oh, that's so cool. Like I was just like intrigued by it. My husband is a hunter.
Okay.
He does that. That's in his DNA. I mean, he's done it since he was a kid. Not me, on the other. I don't ever go with him. I've never had an interest. But this python hunting thing, for some reason, I just thought I could do it.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. For some reason, I just thought I could do it. That's like the best theme ever.
I know. A side note to that is that I've had Reiki sessions. I've had very, energetic sessions, and usually a snake will come up in the conversation. Someone told me I was a snake wrangler in snake charmer in a previous life. As all these like random details come out about Signs. I have a little gold snake hat pin that is like on this custom hat that I had made. It's like I'm drawn. I'm terrified of snakes, but I'm also drawn to them.
Interesting.
So this felt like a very prolific thing after the fact. I didn't really think of it leading into it. I also did not know how I was going to be catching the snake either. I
guess
asked
so.
0 questions.
Wow. You asked 0 questions?
I just was like, well, when I arrived, I had booked it 9 months prior. This guy.
So were you having, if it was me, I would be having anxiety all the way up through the 9 months.
Well, I did about the week prior. I was like, okay, we're really going to do this. My husband's like, are you sure you know what is going on? I said, I am not sure of anything.
I'm down.
Welcome. Yeah. You're welcome. You're coming with me, and like, you're welcome. And so we ended up bringing our son with us. He's 9.
Wow.
And he didn't want to go, and I kind of talked him into going. And it was just like, it was a cool experience.
Wow. Well, this is bringing me to the point of, stepping into the unknown.
Yes.
Right? And making changes before you know. There's no certainty. There's no path when you choose to do something different. I feel like you've become, a big theme around your podcast, and what I've heard you talk about is change and pivots.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What are some of the, because as you know, I'll unveil it here.
Yeah.
I'm making a big pivot, y'all. I'm moving to Naples.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. I'm excited too. But it's taken me a long time to come around to this decision. Like the opportunity's always been there, and I've resisted it, and I've not wanted to I've rejected it, and for some reason it just all clicked. Boom.
Yeah.
Like this is the right time.
And you said this kind of things started to flow together.
Yeah, things are just starting to just come together so beautifully as far as, I've never gone through this experience of selling and buying at the same time. It's crazy, but it's really going very smoothly, knock on wood.
Good.
But this whole idea of change has come up for me too of, we talked on your podcast about pivoting, and in your observations, you're saying you've done a lot of pivots, you've done a lot of things. But me, when I self-examine, I feel like I have a hard time with change sometimes. Why do we resist change? And then I notice it in other people. Talk about healthy habits and things. I've talked to people, they're having this and that struggle. Start talking about diet and things you can do to eat differently, to feel differently. But people have a really hard time making those changes. What do you think? Is there a secret to making pivots more smoothly or what?
I think because I am someone who changes, and I do think that's why I have this connection with the snake. I mean, to tie that in, it's like the molting of the skin and like the transformation there. I'm just open to it. I think if you can just open yourself up to saying, what I'm doing right now may need some tweaking. It may need an adjustment. I may need to do something different. I may need to completely rework. I mean, it could be big things, reworking a career, moving to another place, moving to another state, but just being open to what you're doing right now may not be the thing. And that to me, and I think how I frame it, it's almost like the cinnamon effect, is like, I think of it as it could be better.
Yeah.
And I'm right here and this is great, but it could be better.
Right.
And like that opportunity for that up leveling or being better is so exciting to me that I just have learned now to just go with it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Being open.
Yeah.
Seeing the possibilities. Yeah, I like that. I also heard some really good advice recently. I don't know if it was on a podcast or where I got this. They were talking about sales actually, but I think it relates to relationships as well. It's like if you go into a sale and you're thinking about closing the deal, closing. That's a lot of pressure. It could give you anxiety, can make you show up nervous and, unappealing to the person who's listening to you, prospect. But if you go in as an opener, like, I'm going to open this conversation. How many conversations can I open? How many people can I talk to? What possibilities, what opportunities?
Yeah.
It's a whole different type of feeling.
Yeah.
Than having to have it, that desperation.
Yes. Yes. And I think too, even if something doesn't work out, you may feel knocked down a notch, but knowing that there's something better or more suited for your highest good that's going to be around the corner,
Yeah.
And keeping that positivity. I don't want it to be like, what do they call it? Like
toxic positivity.
Toxic positivity. Yeah. I say I'm boldly optimistic.
I like that better.
Boldly optimistic.
And that reminds me, I was going to ask you about that word bold, because I heard you on one of your episodes, that word came up, and it's come up for me too. Like, people have actually said to me, "Oh, you're kind of bold." And I was like, "Oh, well, what the hell does that mean?" Thanks for the compliment. I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
And so have people called you bold? And then what's your interpretation of that?
People have called me bold. I take it as a huge compliment, because I think that means that someone sees me as somebody who's going to, just get out there and do something different. And so I appreciate that. I would like to say that I was not always that way. And maybe I started doing that because I did feel so shy. I was a very shy kid, actually. And so the fact that I do and, have a podcast and like do these things, it feels like, oh, wow, is that really me?
Yeah.
It's the new version of me, I guess.
Yeah. And we go through a lot of versions of ourselves, don't you think, in this life?
Absolutely.
We get to write different chapters of our story and who we are and the rebirths that happen.
Yeah.
I feel like, that's really relatable, I would think, for many people. And then what's interesting too, in just like human behavior, is seeing how when you do go through a big change, who embraces you or embraces that, it allows you to evolve, versus they're like, that's not who you are.
Yes.
The people that will say, that's not who you are, that's not what you do, that's not what you're about. It's like, why are you defining who I am?
Yes. Yeah, I think that was maybe most evident to me in my experience when I stopped drinking alcohol, because you're hanging out with people and doing the same thing, for a long time. And then you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. And it really shocks people. And I feel like alcohol, maybe more so than other things. Like if you were going to, I don't know, do something, you were going to color your hair, right? And that's a big change for a woman. I've done that. I've gone blonde to like more of a reddish tone, the cinnamon color I like to call. Yep. And that's a big change, but people are okay with that.
Yeah.
It's like a choice that maybe they are still partaking in alcohol and you are not. And you're like, this is what I'm doing now. And some people have a hard time with it. I experienced both. I experienced where people who still drank were like, I'm so proud of you. And then there were people that still drank that wanted to kind of keep me well, you don't do the things that I do anymore, so I'm going to keep you over there type thing.
Oh yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah,
I would say I can relate to that 100%.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to, you mentioned earlier a little about your feng shui experience, but I was really curious to know, maybe we already sort of unearthed this a little bit, but I think it's so true. And now that I'm moving, I am really feeling it, because after you live somewhere for 9 years, nearly 10 years, you do accumulate stuff.
Totally.
Lots of stuff. And it was starting to weigh me down. Like I was literally feeling stuck, just like kind of, that's the best word, I suppose, just stagnant.
Yes.
And feeling like now that I'm moving and getting rid of stuff and moving things out, and I can't believe that I've, somehow filled like 30 garbage bags of just junk to throw away, and then plus donating different things.
Yes.
And I'm like, where did all this stuff come from? And what do I feel so much more free letting it go? But I'm really interested in the connection between feng shui and your health.
Yes.
So could you speak to a little bit more about that?
Yes. I feel like I just know that from my personal experience. And yes, they teach you that when you're going through the training of how it can affect your health. And honestly, it's the health of the home is so important to us and to our health. You think of a house that's overly cluttered and there's a leaky faucet and the toilet keeps running and there's, chips out of the walls. And how does that feel when you're in that? Everyone's been in a house like that and you're like, like it's just a drag.
Yeah.
It brings you down. So, those types of things, if you are in a home that needs some repairs, the repairs are very, very important. I also think when you're moving into a new house, sometimes the things in the new house I think the energy of a new person, I've always noticed, I've bought and sold a lot of homes. I've been in real estate for a long time as well. And when you make that shift, it's like things start to adjust, right? I always think that the energy of a house adjusts to the person that's coming in, and maybe things break and it's like kind of weird. Have you ever had that where you move into the house and a week later the dishwasher stopped and the person before you was like, well, it worked for 15 years. And you're like, but it broke when I came in. And it's maybe just this like shift of energy, The decluttering, I think it does weigh us down. There are actual people talk about, decluttering their closet and then they lose a couple pounds because they just have gotten rid of the weight of some of these pieces that they've been holding on to forever.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Time to get rid of more clothes.
Oh my gosh, it is. It's just like, I am constantly, there's Marie Kondo does the Finding Joy and she, says that you can declutter and you do it you do it once and you don't have to do it. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think you are constantly doing it, especially other people living in your home. It's like you are accumulating so many different things. But if you can, I think devoting, let's say you don't want to do it every day. I'm tidying twice a day at least. I like a very clean environment. I also kind of doing a lot of work from home. So I feel like my physical space has to be clear so I can actually think.
Right.
But even once a week, if you are just gathering up the things that either need to be donated or, whatever, I like to move them into an area that is out of my view. So if you have a garage or a closet, and then when they start to accumulate more, then I like to, then I'm going to put them in my car to donate or whatever I'm going to do with them. I'm going to give this item. I have a microphone. I'm going to give it to someone I know that can use it, right?
Yeah,
I don't have a microphone at home, but I'm just saying repurposing things and kind of it's just clearing it out.
It does. It's feeling so much lighter to lessen the load of all the stuff that you just accumulate. Yeah. And, it's such an interesting experience to have such a shift where before we started today, I was telling you a little bit about how, gosh, I was starting to feel like getting kind of in a dark place, like just feeling like it's almost like, whatever you want to call it, whether it's God or signs from the universe or whatever telling you, do it now.
It's time.
It's time to make a change.
Yeah.
It's time to make a pivot. You got to go, girl.
I think you're going to, because you are taking, like you said, 10 years worth of things and you're getting rid of it and you're going through all this stuff. I feel like this is going to be such an amazing path forward for you because you're just clearing it all out.
Yeah. It feels really right.
Yeah.
And like I've said, I had the option for a long time, but now it feels really right. So I'm looking forward to stepping into it, just like you stepped boldly into wrangling that snake.
I'm never going to live it down. I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, people have like stopped me on the street that I know, not strangers.
Of course, yeah, right.
But, oh my gosh, Kimberly, I saw that like video that you posted and I'm like, oh my God.
That's pretty cool.
But it was cool. I felt like a badass. I'm not going to lie.
As you should. I think it's amazing. That's
I woke
great.
up the next day and I was like, yeah.
I think
like I did
too,
that.
like doing things like that, and your version of that out there, just, each person's version of wrangling the snake, it can be different. Totally. But whatever it is where you step into that unknown, a little bit of risk, like it just enlivens you.
Totally. Don't you feel alive?
Yeah.
You feel alive right now.
Yes.
Because you're like doing the thing.
Right.
That's maybe scary and you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what is waiting for you over there?
So exciting.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know, but I'm excited for you.
We have to sometimes create those life experiences now where life has gotten so much easier in modern day, the way we live and everything. It could be easy. It could be air conditioned all the time,
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of create those bold life experiences so we can feel more alive.
Yeah. Maybe the snake is my version of a cold plunge.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's great. Because, cold plunge isn't for everybody.
No, it's not for everyone. It's not for me, actually.
Yeah. Don't just hop on the trend because it's trendy. I like that. Let's see. How are we doing on time? We have a few more minutes. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because I know that you're affiliated with, you have the biocharger. And I haven't yet. I kind of know a little bit of it. I've been introduced to it in bits and pieces, but I haven't dove in on that and I want to know more. So can you tell me more about the biocharger and also what's your experience been with it and why? Like, how'd you settle on biocharger with all the options out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the biocharger. I had seen it years ago. A friend of mine, we were somewhere, I don't really remember where, but we were somewhere and someone had a biocharger. And it looks like a science experiment. It really is very like sciencey looking, lights and, everything. And she said, oh, that's the Holy Grail over there. And I said, oh. And I kind of took note and went on about my life, never used one. And then actually a listener of my show has a biocharger and I was at her house and she said, you should have them on. Actually later she said, you should try to see if you could get biocharger on your podcast. And I did. I reached out to them and they were very open and welcoming. And I wasn't certain I was going to get one at that time, but then a gentleman came over and showed me how to use it, did like a demo for me. And I was like, this thing is cool. And I immediately felt it. So it's PEMF, it's frequency. Frequency is really the main, I think, crux of what it is. It's light and it's sound therapy as well.
All the things together.
All the things. So it's like 4 therapies in one. And I thought, well, if I'm going to get something, maybe I'll just get this one thing. Because I'm really not an overly tech person. I don't wear wearables. I'm not really into that kind of thing.
I'm not either, by the way.
Yeah. And this felt like something that it was user friendly, which was important to me because there was other gadgets and things that I had looked at and I thought, I don't think I'm going to use that because it's not user friendly. And to me, it's got to be something I'm going to integrate into my routine. So,
and you just sit in front of it, right?
You just sit in front of it. I have rebounded in front of it. I've stretched in front of it. I hydrate in front of it. Those are kind of, my activities, but you can lay there, you can meditate. You can, I love the lights off because it's got all those cool lights to it. But yeah, so it's like, there's all these recipes and you are programming whatever recipe you want to use. So it could be anything. It could be something related to thyroid or
Weight loss or
weight loss, back pain,
sleeping,
sleeping, meditation, earth pulse, which is like the Schumann resonance of the earth, like all these cool applications. I think there's over 1,000 recipes that you have access to.
Is it user friendly?
It is.
Okay.
So you are using the, it's kind of like cloud technology. So you're kind of downloading it to your machine and then you can use it. And I'll tell you, my husband was very like skeptical. He was like, I don't know about this thing. And I said, just trust me. It's going to be amazing. And we got it and we use it. I mean, a couple times. I mean, I'm really in a good phase where I'm kind of like a 5-day a week. I mean, there's people that use it every day, but I think, 4 to 5 days a week is kind of when I'm using it.
Did you say that your husband now is a believer?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
That's important.
Yes, it is important for everyone to be on board. My son, I've used it with him. It's, and if he even has like the tiniest little sniffle, there's a recipe called Purify and Recover on there. And I swear by it.
Wow.
I said, the moment that you think you're not feeling good, you sit in front of that with the Purify and Recover. And
is it like a 20-minute window or?
It is. Most recipes are anywhere from like 10 minutes to like 25 minutes. There's some that are longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So you could do a couple of them if you wanted to sit there for 30 minutes or whatnot, but it's like charging your body with these frequencies. And I think frequency is so powerful.
It's the future of medicine.
The future.
Yeah.
I do.
I agree.
Yeah, I do believe
That's
that.
amazing. I wanted to make sure I asked you about that.
Yeah. It's super fun.
I have to clarify something now. I just said that I wasn't a gadget girl. I've said before I am a gadget girl. So now I feel like I have to clarify.
Yeah.
Well, you said wearables. I'm not a wearable girl. I should say that. Like, I don't do the wearables. I'm not the Oura Ring person. I feel like the EMFs are going to bother me. I don't know. That's my personal philosophy. However, when I run across a device like the Resimax, remember I told you about the Resimax? I had him on, the founder and inventor of the Resimax. He was great. And I've been using that.
Vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve, the whole nervous system. It's calming of the nervous system. It's also just has all these recipes, they call them recipes, for all different conditions and ways you can use it. It's got the gua sha on it, so you're like rubbing it across your body and stuff. So that kind of a device, I'm all in.
Yes.
So there are things that I do like device-wise, but there are also things that I'm not on board with. So, it's discerning. It's just, depends on the person. Again, goes back to that. So I just had to say that for fear of being called a hypocrite someday.
Someone's going to say, you said. And you probably have gotten that before with something. Well, I heard you say this.
Oh, sometimes. Yeah, I'm sure. Not necessarily with the podcast, but in life, yeah. Let's see. Well, you've done so much. You have the snake wrangling. I saw the personal retreat. You went to Switzerland on a retreat. I mean, what's next for the podcast? Maybe we'll wrap it up that way. Just say what's next for you, and then of course, where can people find you?
Okay, I don't know what's next. I mean, I feel like I just opened myself up to possibility and what could be. I think the podcast is, growing and committed to having it grow and having exciting people on and sharing a bit of my heart and my life. That's really my goal in doing that. As far as like interesting experiences, I don't have anything on the docket right now.
You never know then. Keep it open.
But I need to. I know. I need to keep it open. Yeah. And it's funny because once you do something like python wrangling or, hunting, then people are like, well, what are you going to do next? And so I'm thinking, oh, is that like a thing that I'm doing where it's something out of the box? I guess maybe a little bit. So I'm just going to keep myself open to that.
Yeah. And rather than putting pressure on you to now invent something, it's just a matter of staying open.
Yeah. Staying open. So there's nothing really that's sparking my interest right at this point, but
yeah. And that's perfectly fine.
Stay tuned to that.
That's right. Stay tuned. And so where can people find you?
So people can find me, I guess mainly on Instagram at Kimberly Hand _. And there is at the Cinnamon Effect podcast as well. And I have website, KimberlyHand.com and the CinnamonEffectPodcast.com. I'm in both places. I don't know why. I feel like the Kimberly Hand was always there for years and years. So I just kept it going, and now we've got the podcast. So
excellent. Well, thank you so much for making it down here to Boca.
Yes,
and
thank you.
To record here at Pod Populi, which is probably my last recording here.
Oh my gosh!
So that's momentous.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that.
So thanks so much, Kimberly. I'm so glad we had a chance to connect. And for everyone else listening, just remember, we want you to stay healthy so you can stay happy. And we'll see you on the next one. Yay. Psst, can you do me a favor? Text the link to this episode to a friend who you know needs to hear this. By doing so, you are helping me with my mission to open minds to all the holistic health solutions that are available to us all. We hope you'll support our small business and shop ngvitamins.com for all your supplement needs. Oh, and don't forget to follow, hit the bell on your platform of choice so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed this show, please consider sharing your review on iTunes. Until next time,